Alright guys, MTech Guy here, and today we're going to take a look at changing out the spark plugs on the little 1 Series, the E87 130i. Now I've not long ago bought this car and I've got no idea what the condition of the spark plugs are in, what type of spark plugs have been used previously. Now I see the service interval counter has been reset. Now this car was imported at the beginning of this year and I imagine it was given a good service before it was put on sale, but like I say, I've got no idea what type of spark plugs they've used. Even if they have changed them or not, it might have just been reset anyhow. So with all them unknowns and for my own peace of mind, I want to get them changed out today. Now of course this has the N52 straight 6 engine, and the service intervals on these cars with this engine are 100,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles. Now that does seem like a massive interval, but the types of spark plugs that these cars use, they can last up to 100,000 Ks, but I like to get them changed out about halfway through, so I always look at changing mine out every 50,000 Ks or every 30,000 miles. And if you've just recently acquired one of these cars, it is worth chucking a new set of spark plugs in there just to set off on the right foot with it. Now if you do neglect to change your spark plugs out over a long period of time, it can start to cause all kinds of small issues like misfire, hesitation while driving. It can affect your fuel economy, and it can also have a knock-on effect to making the coils fail too. So it's certainly a job worth getting done. So let's take a look at what parts we're going to need. Alright, so of course the only parts we're going to need for this job is a set of spark plugs, and it being a 6-cylinder engine, we've got the 6-pack here, got a 4-pack and 2 loose ones. Now you can either go for genuine BMW ones or the NGK brand. Now if you do get the genuine BMW ones, you will find that they are in fact NGK brand. They'll just have the BMW logo printed on them also, because the NGK are the OEM manufacturer. So if you go for the NGK ones like myself, you're going to save yourself a lot of money, and the only difference being you're not going to have that BMW logo on them, which doesn't really matter. There are other brands out there, but I would stick to the NGK. They seem to work the best in these engines. Now the part number for these spark plugs is right there for anyone who's paying attention, and I will link the original BMW part number in the description below too. Alright, so let's pop the bonnet and see where these things live, and then we'll run through the steps required to change them out. Alright, so looking under the bonnet, under the hood here, the 6 spark plugs live inside the cylinder head like that, and they're hidden underneath this plastic cover. Now as you can see, we've got these plastic covers here and this tray which house the cabin filter. Now they're sort of half overlapping the valve cover there. So to start off with, we're going to need to remove all this equipment, and then we can remove this plastic cover, and then the 6 spark plugs will be staring us in the face with the coils on top. So what I'll do is I'll stick the camera on my head and then I'll run through the steps required to get them changed out. Okay, so we'll start off by removing this plastic piece here that's holding these cables. It's just a case of grabbing it and pulling it towards yourself. Then next up, we're going to remove this cable off the bottom of the plenum tray there. It's held on by 3 clips, and it's just a case of getting in there with a screwdriver, pushing a wee tab down and pulling it towards yourself. Now we can remove the cover for the brake booster. It's just a case of grabbing the wee tab at the back there, pushing this rubber tab out the way, and then lift it right up and out like that. And it's the same deal for the ECU cover. And now we can remove the cover for the cabin filter. That's held on by 6 bolts. They take an 8mm socket. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then lift the cover with the filter out of the way. And with the cabin filter and the lid out of the way, we can now remove the tray. Now this is held in by 2 bolts, one there, that take an 8mm socket. And then there's a wee rubber tab there, and the same on the other side. So we'll start off by removing the weather strip. And there's a small electrical connector to disconnect here, and we'll just get that out of the way. Remove the bolts. And now we can slide the tray out. Right then, with that lot out of the way, it's given us much more access to the job, and we can now see the full valve cover. So next up, we need to remove this other obstacle here, which is the strut brace. So to do that, we need to remove this plastic cap here. So we'll grab a flat blade screwdriver, just twist it like that a few degrees, and then we're just going to pry that off with the screwdriver. Now if we take a look through the access hole here, you can see the mounting bolt for the strut brace right there. Now that takes a E18 Torx socket, and the one on the other end, that takes a E14 Torx socket. Now it's a case of removing this one completely, and the one at the other end there, we just need to back that off slightly, and you can slide the strut brace right out of there. And now it's time to remove the valve cover. So this is held on with a few plugs underneath there. It's just popped on there, so it's just a case of getting your fingers under there and prising it off. And if we take a look on the back side of the valve cover here, you can see them 4 plugs there where it's pressed on. Alright, so you can now see we've got access to these 6 ignition coils here. So we'll start off with this one at the front. We need to get the ignition coil out of the way first, and then we'll have access to the spark plug. So it's a case of just pulling this tab up here, and as you pull it up, it'll push the electrical connector out. We're going to disconnect that. And then what we're going to do is close the tab again. It's likely that these can get a bit frozen over time, the ignition coils in the cylinder head, so it's worth just giving them a bit of a twist. Lift the flap back up, and then I'm going to take a 3/8 drive extension socket and stick it through the hole there and lift the ignition coil right up and out, just like that. And if we take a look inside the cylinder head there, there's our spark plug. Now then, to remove the spark plug, going to be using a dedicated spark plug socket. Now this has a rubber bung down inside of it there, and what that'll do is once we've undone the spark plug is going to get stuck inside the socket, so when we draw it out of there, it's going to lift the spark plug out. It's not just going to pull straight off the top of the spark plug, and that'll work the same when we come to install the new one. You can also get these with a magnet inside of there, and this is a 10mm spark plug socket. Now on the end of the spark plug socket, I'm going to be using a 3/8 drive extension bar with a locking tab on the end. So what that'll do is that'll lock on the end of the spark plug socket, so when we come to reinstall the new one and it's in position, when we draw this out the hole, the spark plug socket obviously will be stuck on the spark plug itself, and we don't want the extension bar to pop off the socket. So what this will do is draw the whole lot out from the spark plug. So you're going to need a setup like this to get the job done. There's the old one. Another NGK one there. See, it's a little bit brown, but it's not too bad. Got the new one here, and there's the new and the old side by side. We'll install the new one. Just be gentle putting it down inside the spark plug well there, because you don't want to damage the end of the tip of the spark plug. You don't want to reduce that spark plug gap at all. So we're just going to thread that in by hand to start off with. Stick the ratchet on there. We'll nip it up. There we go. And when you are tightening it up, you don't need to go mad. All you're doing really is compressing this small crush washer here, that seal, so you're crushing that, and then of course you do want it tight enough that it's not going to vibrate loose, but you don't need to go crazy over tightening it, because just remember you are screwing it into an aluminium cylinder head. Now we'll put the ignition coil back in position, reinstall the electrical connector, and as you push this on it'll just catch on that lever and come down a little bit, just like that, and then just push it the rest of the way to lock it in. That's that one done. We'll now move on to the next one. There's the second one, shiny new one, back in the hole. Back in the hole with the ignition coil. Plug her back in. So that one done, and then we'll move on to the next one and just carry on right the way through till we've got all 6 done. So now we can put the valve cover back in place. There we go, and next up we can refit the strut brace. And we'll just double check the end of the strut brace there to make sure it's located correctly before we tighten the bolt down. And back in with the tray. Refit the 2 bolts either end. We'll reconnect our sensor here. Back on with the weather strip. Reposition the cabin filter and its cover, and then back in with the 6 bolts. Refit the ECU box cover. And the same for the master cylinder cover. And now we can reposition the 2 cable sets here. That's the first one, and the last one. Alright, so now that we've got the new spark plugs fitted, it's time to reset the service indicator on the dash for the spark plugs. So to do that, we first need to turn on the ignition. Then next up, we're going to press and hold the trip reset button. You see that warning triangle there, it's doing its thing. And then let go. When you see this icon here, we've got the one for the brake fluid there. So we need to scroll through each icon till we see the one for the spark plugs. So to do that, we're going to use this lever on the indicator stalk. So we'll scroll through now. This one for the spark plugs. You can see, so we've got 100,000 kilometers to go. Yeah, right, this must have been reset, like I say, when it came into the country. So next up, to select that, we're going to press once the BC button. And then when you see it say reset, press and hold that BC button, and then it'll reset that counter. We've got 100,000 kilometers there, which it was already at. So now that's that done, we're all good to go. Alright guys, so that's that job sorted, and it's a fairly easy DIY once you get all that equipment out of the way and you've got access to them 6 coils, the 6 spark plugs. It's not bad at all. Got all the old plugs here, and as you can see, they're genuine BMW ones. Obviously NKG on one side, BMW stamped on the other side. So I'm not sure, but these might be the original plugs. You never know. But anyway, good job we got them changed out. Now, if you found the video interesting or useful, don't forget to give it a like, and make sure you go and check out the rest of my YouTube channel. I've got heaps more 130i DIY videos on there. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.